What is up, guys? Welcome back to another video. I'm going to be reacting to Sweatt's video ranking the top 30 players in the NBA. This was uploaded a couple months ago, I think right before the playoffs, and let's see who he has there.
Ranking the top 30 players in the NBA.
Alright, let's get into this.
Year, and we had to wait until the season officially finished before we could do it again, so let's not waste any time and let's get into it. Starting first with honorable mentions, just so you don't think I completely forgot anybody. Numbers 31 through 35 just barely missed the cut, and they're Brandon Ingram, Pascal Siakam, Bam Adebayo, LaMelo Ball, and Jamal Murray. They didn't make the official top 30,
like the first few guys are probably better than LaMelo.
Edwards. He showed huge potential this past regular season, then looked like a star when the playoffs came around. And I think now that he showed that, he's going to be given a much bigger role this upcoming season, and we'll get to see a lot more of him. 29 goes to Karl Anthony Towns, who has been the Wolves' best player for a while now, but based on what I just said, that might change. I think Cat should be higher in my opinion. Towns is a great player. If you think about centers and like number 28, it's Anthony where they place. All right, listen. Potential and skill level probably top 10. Ability to stay healthy so that it even matters, and he's one of the worst in the league. No, actually,
I think 80 only played like half the season though, so
he only ranks in at 28.
Can't really have him
goes to Bradley
on the list.
Who's one of the best scorers the NBA has to offer, but up until now it's kind of meant nothing, seeing how he can't lead his team into the playoffs. For 26, we have Kyrie Irving, and he's in the same boat as AD in terms of talent and skill. He's in the top 10, but the fact that he barely plays really dropped him down. At 25, we have Zach LaVine. Originally, I had LaVine a lot higher, and I really do love his game, but for a bunch of reasons, I just had to keep putting more and more guys ahead of him, so he just kept dropping. And I think it's really only because right now he's just a great second option that hasn't had a huge chance to really prove anything just yet. He has Rudy Gobert, the newest and strangest member of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Rudy gets a lot of hate, but for the fact that he single-handedly makes up team's entire defensive plan and completely shifts the game for both sides when he's on the floor, I think this was a good spot. With 23, it's Drew Holiday.
Alright, now the thing with this, Drew Holiday and Rudy Gobert, both defensive guys, obviously. I think in some people's eyes, they would just take scoring all day. But I think a guy like Rudy Gobert could change a whole franchise, basically, like what he did with the Jazz. I think now that he's gone, if Donovan Mitchell stays, I reckon they'll barely make the cut for the playoffs.
Controversial to some people, but he's always been underrated. Drew was the difference maker between the Bucks winning the championship and not. The year he joined the team, they were able to win it, and that was no coincidence. In the regular season, he's always pretty quiet,
it's more Chris Middleton, but still Drew Holiday is probably underrated as well.
And he's the guy that any NBA team would love to have. 22 goes to Chris Middleton, who wouldn't usually rank this high, but again, even though it was over a year ago, don't forget about how much he helped the Bucks to their championship, and how big of an impact Middleton made, and just how different and worse the Bucks looked this year without him. 21 goes to Andrew Wiggins. Alright, with Wiggins approaching the top 20, I get it. It might be a little high, but he was just the second best player on the Warriors championship squad. I mean, he averaged 50 a game and had some amazing defense on Jason Tatum all series long.
He says Wiggins is the second best player on a championship team, which I guess is true, but the Warriors for many years, even without KD, I think a lot of their guys below Steph and Clay are very underrated. Jordan Poole did very well. Kevon Looney did very well. A lot of guys nobody really pays attention to just fit into the team system really well is what I'm trying to say. And I think Wiggins as a second option, you could also probably say Clay or on some games Jordan Poole. So bit of a bad spot in my opinion, but let's keep it going.
And not only that, he guarded every other team's best player during the whole postseason run. So if we just included two other second and third options because of their roles on a title team, I think Andrew Wiggins has to be thrown in there too. And speaking of second options, number 20 goes to Jaylen Brown. Listen, Jaylen had a couple of games there, but he had one
of the best second options in the league, in my opinion.
And that's all you can ever ask for out of a second member of a duo.
Was better than Tatum in the finals for me.
Both ends when the main star isn't always able to. 19 goes to Chris Paul. Yes, obviously I still have to have Chris ranked this high, and it would be a crime not to. The reason the Suns were
people hate on CP3 too much
title contenders was because Chris was still on the team. His stats and numbers have all really dropped off these past couple of years from what we're used to, but let's also not forget the Chris Paul effect. Number 18 goes to DeMar DeRozan.
Now before we get on to DeMar, I think he has a good point with the Chris Paul effect. Just like how Steve Nash with his Suns teams back in the day, I think people tend to hate on them just because they're not as high scoring. But I think the way they play and get everybody involved, they really make the teams a lot better.
DeMar really made a name for himself
And
this
it showed
season
with the
and
record.
revitalized his career. I don't think he even made my top 30 list at all last season, and I don't know if he would have even made a top 50 list.
Hey,
if I
DeMar
had
was
one with
looking
the
like an
performances that
MVP
he
for
was
some
putting
points
up
of
on
the season. Let's
Spurs.
just
And
say
it's
that.
just weird because he was playing his same game this year. Nothing changed with him. He just so happened to be a perfect fit in Chicago, and it clearly really helped his overall ranking. 17, we have Paul George. With the Clippers being out of the title picture the last couple of years thanks to Kawhi and his injuries, don't let that let you forget that Paul George is still a real star and one of the best two-way players in the game.
I think Paul George should be swapped for a couple of guys, if I'm being honest.
It's just still kind of weird with him playing next to Kawhi. I have the 16th best player in the...
I think that's just Kawhi. Kawhi, when he's not injured, he's probably like a top 5 player in the league. So I'm just saying maybe like... I mean, I guess Paul George's defending when he's on top of his game probably puts him up there, but, you know, that's my take.
The NBA ranked as Donovan Mitchell. Coming into the league, Donovan Mitchell was looked at as the next NBA superstar. Well, now after the Jazz have just been barely able to ever get past the first round, that's kind of gone away a little bit. His game hasn't had any dramatic improvements in a couple of years. His team always finishes in the top of the conference, then the playoffs come around and nothing. Pretty excited to see how well Donovan does as the lone star. In the 15th spot, we have Trae Young. Trae has quickly jumped into the top 15 players of the league. With all
it's probably
the moments,
easy to put Donovan Mitchell on a tier list with like
he's been on a tear
glorified
since
scorers like Cat and Bradley Beal
that, it's still always been
and Zach
disappointing for the
LaVine.
Hawks to be one of the best. See him play alongside DeJounte Murray, because if anyone's going to be the one to change that, it's probably him. He's a 25-year-old who averaged a near triple-double with 21 points a game. But if the Hawks continue to be bad, you can almost definitely expect Trae Young's ranking to drop next year. At 14, we have Damian Lillard. Listen, I think number 14 is a very generous spot to give Damian Lillard after this past year. But let's not let a couple of bad years distract us from the rest of his career so far and from the player that he really is. With Booker, there's an argument to be made for Chris Paul and Devin Booker's rankings to be swapped, but for now we're going to leave it as it is. And ever since the Suns have become title contenders, Devin hasn't missed a beat. He hasn't fallen off at all.
Yeah, I think Booker's the better player, but
he's still
Chris Paul's more important to the team.
I would like to see him making more plays for his teammates though and setting them up a little bit more. And if there's anything he should continue to learn from Chris, it should be that. Number 12 then goes to Ja Morant, who took one of the biggest leaps we've ever seen a player make this past season, to the point where if he keeps it up next season and continues to average 27,
oh yeah, Ja's gonna be up there if he keeps going
proves that
even more.
Wasn't just a fluke, then he's approaching superstar levels. The Grizzlies
no
team
way
as
it was a fluke. This guy works hard, trust me.
In the NBA had Ja not made that jump, and assuming they keep everyone together, this team's gonna be scary next year. But Ja doesn't rank higher than 11 because that spot goes to Jimmy Butler. I don't know what it is about playoff Jimmy, but he's a different dude and is the definition of a true
Alright, so
leader.
playoffs is added
He's
in this
tough
as
on
well.
His teammates,
Good
and
to
he
know.
knows how to get the best out of them wherever he's at on both ends. And when he's putting up 40-point games every night in the playoffs and is pretty much carrying the team on his own because nobody else will step up, he's allowed to do whatever he
playoff
wants.
Jimmy is like prime Michael Jordan.
Top 10, James Harden.
Alright, here we go, top 10.
If from now on he's going to be the guy we saw in the postseason for Philly, maybe keep this dude out of the top 15. I'm just really not sure how high he deserves to rank.
I think this list will be easier to do just putting it in different sections of the player, like players. Just because I don't know if James Harden is top 10 anymore. Maybe he is, I just have to look back at it, I guess.
Number 9 then goes to Kawhi Leonard. I've seen Kawhi drop on a lot of people's list over this past year, but that's just because he hasn't been playing, and it seems like when people don't see a guy play for a long time, they forget who they are and how good they are. Kawhi definitely deserves to be in the top 10 players in the NBA.
Yeah,
because
definitely.
I'm sure next season he's going to come back better than ever. This is the NBA.
If Kawhi's as good as he is, with what players have gotten better since he was playing, I think top 6 sounds right. Top 6, top 7.
Easily goes to Joel Embiid. I wanted to put Joel a little higher than this, but I couldn't put him over the next
this feels...
guys. His injuries are always going to hold him back from being a top
This feels a bit too low.
And the league MVP in my opinion, because no matter what he does, we're never seeing Joel play 82 games or anything close to it. I love his game though, and he transformed as a player last year and just never went back, which is great. Now 7, it goes to Jason Tatum, whose game took a huge leap this past year. We had a few games this postseason
I'd say
where
this
he
is
looked like
right.
a superstar, and then those last couple were just hard to watch. All I'm saying though is listen, with the additions that this team has made, if the Boston Celtics don't win the title next year, it's going to be a major disappointment, and maybe his ranking would drop.
I don't think a
Number
major
6
disappointment.
is then Luka
No
Doncic.
way.
For as great as Luka is, I just couldn't include him in the top 5 until he at least has a ring. Everyone else in it has one, and I think you need to lead your team to a championship before you can really get into that conversation. And now we're into the top 5 with...
Alright. Before we get into LeBron at 5, which is big first of all, I think the fact that he said every guy in the top 5 has a ring kind of annoys me somewhat. Just because I think from what this last season has showed, maybe Luka's slightly better than KD, in my opinion, just because of his playmaking. But I don't know. You could flip around these probably these top 5 guys any day of the week.
And for LeBron, there's no explanation needed. He's got 4 championships, and I know some people are still going to have him as the best player in the NBA or along those lines, but this past season wasn't
LeBron
good,
just keeps
and
on
even
getting
though he
better and
averaged
better.
30 a game last year, he's about to be 38. But I think this is a fair spot to have him at 5. The 4th best player in the NBA at this point is probably Kevin Durant. I mean, I debated whether or not to rank LeBron over him. I mean, LeBron leads his team to titles and success, while the only time KD ever has was on the Warriors, and now with him demanding a trade to teams that were already title contenders, he just hurts his case. But I tried to base it off of only basketball skill for next season, and that's why I put KD here. At number 3, we have Nikola Jokic. No conversation needed. 2-time league MVP, and when
Alright, now other people probably have Jokic outside of the top 5 just because they don't read into stats and what he does for the team. But where he put the Nuggets last season was really good without his 2 backup guys in Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray. Like, seriously. This dude, having back-to-back MVP and what he does for his team is probably the most significant impact out of any guy in the league.
Denver gets healthy again, they're probably going to be championship favorites. At number 2, it's Steph Curry, and some people may have him at number 1.
So
he
Giannis at 1, but
that's hard to argue, but personally,
I'll talk about that in a
one
minute.
as Giannis because he's really dominant on both ends and transforms the team on both sides of the ball. And there's a good chance the Celtics don't make the finals this year if Chris Middleton was healthy.
There was his top 30. Now, I'm just going to take it back, and the guy's just missing out. Devin Booker at 13, which I think, having Harden over him, I can probably agree with. At 12,
5, and improves his shooting, improves that.
Which I think, maybe for guys who've sustained greatness in the top 10, I can agree, just because it's his first season, really breaking through as a star. Number 11, Jimmy Butler. So yeah, 10 is Harden. Kawhi at number 9. Number 8, we had Joel Embiid.
Over the next couple.
Number 7, Jason Tatum. I think this was before the playoffs, so I'd say for this season this was about right. Improved defensively a lot. Offensively improved. Maybe his shots selection isn't as good as some other players, but number 7. In front of Embiid, maybe not. In front of Kawhi, maybe not. But Kawhi was out, so you don't know. In front of Harden, I'd say yeah for now. In front of Booker, Jimmy Butler, yeah.
Number 6 is then Luka Doncic.
Alright, Luka at 6. I think this is the one I'd maybe agree with the most so far. Just because of what the other guys have done as accolades, but I don't think you can fully agree with anybody in the top 10, especially closer to the top 5, just because a guy like Luka scores, he does everything for the team basically. The Mavericks got to the conference finals, lost to the Warriors, but I think what he puts up all across the board, I'd say for this season was better than KD.
5 with first LeBron.
Yeah, LeBron was at 5. I'd move him up above KD. Maybe to 4. I don't know.
And for LeBron, Kevin Durant.
Now this was before the playoffs. He said KD at 4. Yeah, I can't really disagree or agree with a lot of this just because it's interchangeable. But I think with the team the Brooklyn Nets had, KD being around that 4th spot is good enough for me. Number 3, Jokic. I agree. All I have to say is back-to-back MVP. Really good player. Defensively underrated. Creates a lot. Did everything for his team this season, and he won't. I don't think he'll get 3 in a row, but he'll be in conversation for sure. Steph Curry, number 2. I think this is also right. People are probably hyping up the Finals MVP, but Stephen Curry, it's what he's gonna do. Should have had 2 other Finals MVPs. Maybe if he keeps going the way he did in the Finals, he could get MVP for this upcoming season. But I think Giannis is still the best player, and that's who he has at number 1. You guys let me know what you thought of this video by Austin Sweatt. I agree with pretty much most of it now. Before the season starts, I'm going to do probably top 20 list of players. Guess we'll have to see, but Giannis at 1, I fully agree with. I think the Bucks will be back there in the finals again this upcoming season. Thank you for watching, like and subscribe, and see you later.